They spend a lot of time together when they can.
Elton John's kids are one of the biggest mysteries when it comes to famous people's children.
They're away. We're taking the boys on tour at the moment with them.
Their dad is a global superstar in the music industry, but despite that, they've completely disappeared from the public eye. What are their lives like? Why are they kept so far out of the spotlight? What's going on with these two? Elton has been on the music scene for what seems like ages now, and at no point in his career did it seem like he was going to settle down and have kids. That is until he did just that just over a decade ago. It was a really unexpected move that left a lot of people speechless because nobody really thought that he was going to choose to start a family at that point in his life, especially since he was already in his 60s. But either way, he did start a family, and now he and his husband, David Furnish, have 2 sons together, Zachary and Elijah. You might be wondering how they actually got the kids, and the answer here is they used a surrogate. Interestingly, it was the same surrogate for both of their kids, even though they were born 2 years apart. We don't actually know her identity since Elton is very protective of her. He makes sure that she stays anonymous, but we now know that the surrogacy was obviously a great experience for Elton and David, as well as for the surrogate. For one, they asked her to carry their second child too. Plus, Elton always talks about her very fondly. He also hasn't really shared any intimate details about the surrogacy process itself, but we know that the surrogate is not actually the kid's biological mother. The eggs came from an egg donor, and we know even less about her than the surrogate. It's likely that she wasn't actually involved in the process at all, but we don't really have that confirmed. And obviously, both of the boys' biological dads are Elton and David. Interestingly enough though, Elton and David don't actually know who is which of the boys' biological dad. They could find out through a DNA test, but they've decided not to do it, and it makes sense if you think about it. They're both the boys' dads, and that's really what matters at the end of the day. And they're also making sure that there are other adults who can take care of them if need be. Both Elijah and Zachary have the same godmother, and it's actually none other than Lady Gaga, which is just absolutely incredible. I mean, imagine Lady Gaga is your godmother and your dad is Elton John. But making Lady Gaga the kid's godmother was actually a very thought out move from Elton and David. For one, they obviously have a closer relationship with her. You don't just randomly make one of your colleagues the godparent of your child. But another thing is she's going to be really helpful to them in the future because realistically, both Elton and David are not the youngest parents out there. Elton is 76 years old and David is 60. And while they're doing well health-wise now, they're obviously not going to be here forever. One day when they pass away, things will be really difficult for Zachary and Elijah. For one, it's obviously really painful losing your parent, but the two of them are also going to inherit the rights to Elton's music, and that's not going to be an easy thing to manage by any means. There's actually a good chance that people might even try to use the situation to their advantage, because obviously Zachary and Elijah don't have experience dealing with the music industry. They might not know what is fair to them and what isn't, but none of that should actually be a problem because Elton already thought of it. That's part of the reason why he asked Lady Gaga to be their godmother, because if or when the boys do end up in that situation, she's going to be there to guide them through it. She's already a trusted adult in their lives, and she's going to make sure that they don't get taken advantage of. This kind of thing is obviously not something that most of us have to worry about. It's not exactly your normal everyday problem, but surprisingly, despite that, Zachary and Elijah seem like a couple of pretty normal kids. You might think that Elton John's kids would be living pretty extravagantly, but it's not really like that at all. The first thing is that they're growing up out of the spotlight. That's actually pretty obvious if you think about it. If Elton was raising his kids fully in the spotlight with him, we would know much more about them than we actually do, which isn't really much at all. But at the same time, Elton doesn't go as far as to shelter his kids from any and all public attention. And he also talks about them sometimes in interviews. So we do know some things about them, a couple details from their lives here and there. Like I said, their names are Zachary and Elijah. Zachary's the oldest, and he'll be turning 13 this year in December. He was actually born on Christmas Day, 2010, and according to Elton, he was the best Christmas gift he and David could have ever asked for. And 2 years after that, they had their youngest son, Elijah. Elijah is turning 11 in January, and both of the boys seem to be doing great. We actually don't know that many specifics about them, but they do sometimes appear in their dad's Instagram posts. sports. And from those, together with what Elton has shared in interviews, we can piece together what their lives are actually like. The main thing is that Elton and David are doing their best to give their kids a normal childhood. Their parents may be famous, but Zachary and Elijah aren't, and their parents don't want them to be affected by the spotlight. Elton has said that he takes them to Pizza Hut or to the cinema. He even apparently drives them to school sometimes. He doesn't feel the need to hide away, and he doesn't think his kid should either. But their parents also don't want them growing up glued to a computer. Apparently for a long time, they didn't even have access to computers, and I don't know if that's really the case today. After all, they're becoming older kids now. Coming across that technology is going to be inevitable either way, but most importantly, they've already done most of their growing up away from the scenes. That means they're actually pretty outdoorsy kids, and they're apparently really into sports. Elton said one time that they're always outside kicking a ball and playing games. They're also actually really good at a bunch of different sports. The main one is probably soccer. Zachary even plays himself. He's in the young division of Watford Football Club. That's actually Elton's favorite club that he's been a fan of for years. And with his level of celebrity, he obviously has some connections there too. One time, Elijah and Zachary were able to join the team's captain for the walkout before a match. If you don't know, that's sometimes a thing in soccer. Young kids get to walk out with the players and join them for the presentation before the match starts. And it's obviously thanks to Elton's connections that they got this opportunity, especially since they both got to walk together with the captain. Since it's not like they're just completely unaffected by Elton's status and fame, but for the most part, soccer doesn't seem to be about that for them. But it's not just soccer that they're good at. They're also both really good at skiing. We know that thanks to the videos from their skiing vacations from their dads. They also go on summer vacations where there's a lot of swimming and other water activities. And obviously, Zachary and Elijah have all these opportunities thanks to their famous dads. But Elton and David still don't want them to be spoiled in other things. They're making sure that the kids know the value of money. They have to earn their pocket money by doing chores at home, and their dads also teach them to not spend everything, but also to actually save up some of their money. This is all to make sure that when they grow up, they're actually well-adjusted humans, and it seems like Elton and David are actually doing a pretty good job at that. But the obvious question that you're probably asking right now is, what are they going to do when they grow up? Are they into music as much as their dad is? Is there a music career in the cards for Zachary and Elijah? Well, unfortunately, the answer here is that we just don't know yet. According to Elton, it's too early to tell what they'll want to do. Either way, he and David will support them in whatever their chosen life paths end up being. But what do you guys think? Did you know about Elton's kids? What do you think about how Elton and David are raising them? Let me know in the comments below.